Back. We are back. And we're discussing selection tools today. Yes, selection tools. And I know you probably think this is going to be the most boring thing ever, but it isn't. The reason why this one isn't going to be boring compared to what you might have thought it was going to be is because we're comparing the selection tools from CS6 and the regular Adobe CC Illustrator or Illustrator CC to the newest version. Now, anybody who's used Illustrator knows that you have a ton of selection tool options. You have your first is the selection tool, and then you have direct selection tool and group selection tool. Okay, and let me show you what those do. Okay, first, when you select an object, like let's say we have, and let's make this some color. Let's make it red. We have a red rectangle. And we want to select it. We simply hit the V button on our keyboard or the very first icon, which is an arrow, and it is our selection tool. Click it, we select the object, we move it. This is how selection tools work in Illustrator CS6 and prior. If you wanted to, let's say, select an anchor point, you would use the direct selection tool, which is the second icon. It looks like the first one, except it's a white arrow as opposed to a black arrow. So this allows you to select individual anchor points. Okay? And then you can move those anchor points and adjust them, change them to how you want. So you get a lot out of it. You can select multiple anchor points at a time. Let's select these two. And then you can move and you can shift your shape however you want with those tools selected. Alright. You also have your lasso tool. Alright. Now your lasso tool you can select with the letter Q. Now we've already done a magic wand tutorial, so if you want to learn the magic wand and what its selection properties are, all you have to do is go back and check that tutorial out and you'll figure that out. It's a whole separate section for that because it operates a little differently than the other selection tools. These are mainly for selecting anchor points and whole objects or certain paths, where the wand selects according to various attributes. So, lasso tool, we can select, instead of using a specific either rectangle marquee or a square marquee, we can use a lasso tool, which allows us to, if we had a funky shape, we can, you know, better yet, here, let's look at a shape that looks like, you know what, let's delete that. Let's make this more accurate. Take that down. Okay. Alright, we got something with all these points, but let's say we only wanted to select these points. The best thing to do is to use the lasso tool. Or we may have wanted to do that, and we can hold the shift key and we can select points at another area. And it selects those individual points. And then we can move them independent of the other points. Now if we were to use our regular selection tool instead of the lasso tool, which is the letter Q, if we were to use the letter A, we'd have to figure out how to use the rectangle, and we could still hit the shift key to add more, but we'd have to, you know, go in and be very, very careful because you might go a little too far and select one you don't want to select, and then you have to go back and unselect it or deselect it. It's a headache. So that's where the lasso tool comes into play. Now, there's also an option called the group selection tool. Now, the group selection tool selects a group of anchor points. Now, you may say, well, what's the benefit of that? You have the direct selection tool, you can select them, or you can just select the whole object. Well, what if we have an object like this? Now, if we were to use our selection tool here, it selects the inner and the outer anchor points. But let's say we just wanted to select the inner anchor points. We would have to go to our group selection tool, which we click on the direct selection tool icon, and then we hold it down and we go to our group selection tool, and we could click on the inner section, and then we can just move and manipulate that specific area without changing the size of it, but it selects that area. And that's how you use these selection tools. So you can fiddle around with these and you can get familiar with them. Very, very simple, very easy. There's nothing complicated about them. But what we're going to do in the next video, which will be right below this one, is, or adjacent to this one, is we're going to discuss the new way that you can actually select. And not that it's so much changed how you select, but you have new options once you've selected something. So we're going to take a look at that in the next video. So stay tuned. Make sure you go over this and you're familiar with this first, and then you'll understand the benefits of the new options in the newest Adobe Illustrator CC. All right, I'll see you guys there.